It seems the whole city has been caught up in Knights fever, from civic leaders to businesses and the general public, all outwardly showing signs of support for their team. And they won't hear of defeat. For some, they aren't about to miss a moment of the weekend, with the reserve grade playing tomorrow with 21s and first grade on Sunday. Good news on the paddock also. Rodwell and Harrigan look set to play.
On Sunday morning there'll be a few nerves there, but we'll try and overcome them the best we can and go out and try the best on Sunday.
At this stage, no, I don't. Yeah, as I said, I'll give it a really good run out tonight, and I think that'll give me a bit more confidence for the weekend. But as for now, I'll be there.
It's been an amazing 5 years for the Knights, and they are at the doorstep of their biggest moment, a place at the Winfield Cup semi-finals.
Tribute to everybody who put the club together in the first 5 years, everyone that was involved in the club for 5 years. To have done what we've done in that short period of time is something for other clubs to emulate.
Having had a look at the video and a few of their plays and whatever, I think we're quietly confident we can win the game.
Glanville, it'll go in! Yes!
It's a different ball game altogether. It's been a good year, and now to take the week to week and hopefully come away with the win each week and just go from there.
It's just another game, and we're taking it that way, and can't wait to get out there.
It's a great effort by the Knights to get there.
Yeah, it's been our goal all year to make it, so we're really pleased.
The little grubber kick in, he's going to score, Bradley Godden, he's going to do it himself. Oh, super try, the fullback.
When you start the year, obviously you look at the semi-finals, even though they seem such a long way off at the start. Sunday they're there. Hopefully all the boys will be keyed up and ready to produce the goods.
I think we can't afford to sit back and look at things just yet. We've got a fairly big task on Sunday to complete, and I think if we play the way we should play, we have every chance on Sunday afternoon.
I think it's going to be similar to the way we've played the rest of the year. We've got a few experienced players in the side, and we've got some younger blokes that, they've aimed up all year, and we expect them to do the job again on the weekend.
Now with Sargent. Sargent gallops away. He's going to get his second. Yes!
They marched along Hunter Street, and as they did, they reflected on the 19 local men who lost their lives during the Vietnam War.
These people were asked by the government at the time to serve their country. They did so, and they paid the supreme sacrifice. And I personally think that it's only fitting that they should be remembered for what they did.
Family and friends joined them for a memorial service in Civic Park.
Four to 1, 7 to 4 and 10 to 9 on and favourite. The seventh was the tramway handicap over 1,400 metres. In Melbourne, the Memsey Stakes was the feature.
Spears Point Park was the venue for the Hunter Envirofest.
People now are realising how important that environment is to us, each individual person.
It's an eastern water dragon, singing a few mile out around the rivers, creeks.
A little bit of green advice on our animals, our plants, what we should be doing with our garbage. One of the main targets, children. Puppets warning that it's wrong to pollute. Even NBN's Big Dog was doing his bit for the environment.
A total of 58 points scored, but only 3 tries. Moree drew first blood, crossing out wide. Barraba's reply was a beauty. Started in their own quarter, a blistering run down the left flank, the ball turned back inside, and things evened up on the scoreboard. But without doubt, the feature of the game was the superb goal kicking from both sides. Both kickers were dead-eye dicks, potting them from halfway and beyond. Moree led 20-10 at one stage, but when the full-time hooter sounded, it was all locked up, 26-all. 20 minutes of extra time, one more penalty goal apiece, and it was still a draw, 29-all. But under the rules, Moree goes through to the grand final because it finished second on the ladder. Barraba finished third.
The Civil Aviation Authority has rescue units around the country. When a search for a missing plane or boat is underway, trained volunteers observe from the authority's fleet of aircraft. This weekend, more than 40 people from the Coffs Harbour area were shown how to be the eyes of the rescue operation.
The purpose of the exercise is to make sure that they have experience and knowledge in the activity of searching from the air. It's a specialised activity, it requires skill.
There'll be a parallel search pattern off the coast and the contour search mainly around Mount Yarrahapinny.
2 training exercises were conducted, an air search over Mount Yarrahapinny and another out to sea. Although this was just a practice, it turned into the real thing when an observer noticed a red flare from a boat 3 nautical miles off Nambucca Heads.
It was established that the boat was indeed in trouble. Its battery had failed, it could not start its engines and could not use its radio.
Water Police organised the rescue of the boat, a potential disaster averted. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
A great start to Father's Day for these fellas. 6:30 they were outside Grafton's post office and they spent the next few hours alternating between the back of a van and the bitumen. 12 teams entered this year's relay, that number a little down on previous runs. Each team member takes a turn, running 1 kilometre at a time. When you've got to cover 80 kilometres, that's a lot of getting in and out. They avoided the Pacific Highway, heading down the narrow back road through Karamba. At the Newcastle 6 led the pack home. Mal Roberts, Steve Atkins, Brian Major, Alan McCluskey, Nick Fletcher and Glenn Greedy, finishing in a time of 4 hours, 13 minutes and 20 seconds, well outside the record. All money raised from the Ultra Relay goes to Coffs Harbour Hospital. It's the boys' third and final camp after 12 months of intense training. The Academy's League program has thrown up about 30 graduates in the last couple of years. 12 of those are now playing in the Winfield Cup. Even in this year's group, 3 of the 23 are playing President's Cup with the Gold Coast Seagulls. And they're only 17, still at school, juggling league and logarithms. Earlier this year, the current batch went down to a Queensland school side 26-16. This weekend, they've been undergoing courses in sports psychology, fitness and weight training. and the big guns already have their eyes on them. Half a dozen boys will trial with Easts, Norths and St George next month. And next Saturday at Grafton, the North Coast Academy will be trialling players for next year's league program. Kicking up some dust at Dong Dingalong. Crowds beneath canvas watching 60 homemade hot rods go round in round 6 of the New South Wales short course title. 9 classes, buggies, modified and standard, around a dry 2-kilometre track. The drivers have been clocking some great times.
Times have been excellent. We've had a couple of records broken here, which means that the track, either the cars are getting faster or that in technology, the track is in really good condition.
Warhope's Peter Trotter broke both the 2 and 3 lap record in Class 6. Another North Coast driver, Bill Buchanan, broke the 3 lap record in Class 2. But Sydney's Cliff Alderton leads the Drivers' Championship.
The historic planes converged on the Moree airstrip for the town's first major warbird fly-in. The show, staged by the local Aero Club, included appearances by Tiger Moths, Spitfires and Mustangs. Money raised from the air spectacular will go to Moree's keyhole surgery appeal. But not all invited aircraft attended. A World War II Kitty Hawk fighter missed the show after a dramatic crash landing at Wee Waa yesterday. The plane came down within metres of homes, clipping trees on its descent.
I heard a bang, so I just kept an eye on it, had a look at it, and the motor cut out, and it started up again, and it just lost it all in it.
The pilot and a teenage passenger walked away unhurt. Year 9 to 12 students from more than 30 schools took part in the Design Awards. The event was held at High School at Inverell last night. Students designed clothes suitable for a job interview, formal wear, casual gear and a day at the races. Glen Innes High was the most successful high school at the awards. The best central school was Ashford.
Both sides have had their coaching problems this year. Rob College hasn't had one at all, the responsibility shouldered by the players. Old Boys lost their coach John Jenkins midway through the season. Nevertheless, both sides overcame that to be there on grand final day. The Premiers went in as underdogs. Old Boys thrashed Rob College 50-3 earlier this year. Rob was up early, but Old Boys kept plugging away and a good lead was whittled down. Old Boys down by 2, 14-12. Rob College wilted in the latter stages. And this amazing penalty goal sealed their fate. Old Boys, the new premiers, the final score 23-14. 94 competitors from as far as Western Australia and Queensland hit the water. A large fleet of boats followed to the finish at the Kincumber Hotel. No surprises at the finish either. Dean Mercer first home in a time of 1 hour, 59 minutes and 33 seconds, just over a minute behind the race record set by his brother last year. The latter pulled in barely a minute later, third behind Manly's Dean Gardner, who finished in a time of 1 hour, 59 minutes and 37 seconds. First local home, Paul Lemon from Avoca, closely followed by Vince Minto from Wamberal. Swansea Belmont's Nathan McGregor won the juniors. The Manly club dominated the seniors, taking first, second and third. Here's a twist. The winner of the Lucky Draw Prize, which by the way was a surf ski, was a fellow by the name of Martin Kenny from Mooloolaba. And he has a brother called Grant. The cottage in West Tamworth is usually a museum, but over the weekend visitors to the cottage's open day took a step back to the 1870s, dressing up in colonial costume and performing skills that are still used today. Working water pumps built in 1936 and a corn grinder were also on display. The cottage was built in 1876 and includes other buildings such as a fully equipped schoolroom, complete with inkwells and slates. The site is maintained by the Tamworth Historical Society.
It was Neil Baker's last year as a player and it couldn't have worked out better. A premiership win after going through the season undefeated. This places the Rosellas in line for the coveted Clayton's Cup, but the margin of the win was a shock.
Well, no one expects to win by that much in any sort of game, but mate, I knew the guys all along could win, but by that score and a half, it was a great effort.
Two-try hero Darren Tracy had talks with South Sydney immediately after the game, and with Neil Baker acting for him, he's set for a career in the big time. But prior to the match, plenty of nerves.
I had a few nerves all week, and Bake said to us before we went out, he said, just relax and enjoy your game, and just see what happens. Just enjoy yourself. That's all we can do.
For others like Dave O'Brien, who joined West from Cessnock, yesterday was extra special.
If I dreamt it couldn't have happened better, you know, to go through undefeated and to win 33-0, that's fantastic.
It was certainly a highlight of my career so far. It was unreal.
Tremendous all three grades.
Yeah, it was a pretty strong club at West, and throughout the year we thought it was possible to win all three grades and come up trumps.
It was a fact-finding mission for Chris Harcher. He was accompanied on his visit to Martin Street by former Environment Minister Tim Moore and local MP Ray Chappell.
You can read any amount of files, you can look at any amount of maps, you can read any amount of studies, but until you actually meet the people who are involved, you've got no idea of the human dimension.
The Minister also had a closed meeting with council members and the affected residents. It's the latest in more than 2 years of negotiations about having the toxic subdivision cleaned up. The residents were unaware when they built in Martin Street that the soil had been contaminated by copper chrome arsenate, left behind by a pole treatment plant. Chris Harcher says he'll try to take over where Tim Moore left off.
Yes, what Mr Moore was trying to do was to try and bring all the parties together to try and get a resolution of the problem in a non-litigious way without all the anxiety of a court case.
Tim Moore says he's confident the issue will be resolved in the near future without having to resort to the courts for an answer.
I'm sure that he and Ray Chappell will work together to try and see that the residents get justice much faster than would be the case if it had to go through the traditional adversarial legal system.
More than 200 contracts have been let over the years as part of the Gosford sewerage scheme. Today, the last of those was started, with Public Works Minister Wal Murray and Member for Gosford Chris Harcher turning the first sod of soil at the Kincumber sewerage plant. The plant will be expanded at a cost of $8.4 million. When work is completed in 1994, the facility will have increased by 50% to service more than 180,000 people.
Areas connected during 1992 include Empire Bay, Daly's Point and Davistown. The remaining areas of St Hubert's Island, Kilcare, Peninsula and Patonga will be available later in the year.
All up, the Central Coast sewerage scheme will cost around $300 million. Mr Murray believes Gosford and Wyong councils are doing a good job in managing the sewerage and water supply and says that the Hunter Water Corporation will not take over.
There was a proposal and was looked at, and the more it was looked at, the less feasible it became.
The 15-year-old girl has told police she was attacked on Wakel Street near the corner of Dudley Road at 4:30 on Friday afternoon. She became aware of a vehicle following her along the street and turned to go home. Moments later, a man grabbed her from behind as she was outside the local infant school. In a struggle, the girl's pet German Shepherd began barking at the attacker. He kicked at the dog, giving the girl just enough time to break free. Police are convinced the story is authentic and have begun an intensive investigation.
We're treating it as a serious offence and we're canvassing the area. We're asking for members of the public to assist us if they saw the person described or the motor vehicle.
The man was driving a light blue car similar to a Laser or Corolla hatchback. It appeared to have grey undercoat paint along the lower door panels. The scene of the attack is a popular shortcut for children, especially young teenagers leaving nearby Whitebridge High School. Police are anxious to know if anyone else is aware of similar attacks.
It is unusual for our area. I can't remember having a report for some time.
The teenager has given police a good description of the would-be abductor. He's in his late 20s or early 30s, about 180 centimetres tall, of solid build. He had light brown to blonde short hair and possibly a beard. Anyone with information should contact Charlestown Police. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
The bridge on the Grafton Road 50 kilometres east of Armidale is no longer used by highway traffic and has been replaced by a new structure. Work crew from Demerrick Shire Council were working on dismantling the old wooden structure at about 3:30 this afternoon when it gave way.
A workman was cutting one of the hanging bolts, which is the supporter of the Allen Truss. He was cutting the 7th of the 8th pair, and as it was cut with the oxy, the bridge just collapsed. For no apparent reason, the timber has just snapped, and that was not expected. They expected the bridge to be self-supporting even after the Allen trusses were removed.
The man fell into the river beneath, sustaining serious injuries. He was treated at the scene before being transported to Armidale Hospital.
The workman was knocked into the river. One of the beams actually struck him as it fell. He has received some back injury and rib injuries, but a very lucky man.
The Department of Local Industry will conduct an investigation into the collapse.
Come Monday night, Armidale could have a new mayor. Rosemary Leach has taken a firm no-comment stance on whether she'll stand again. She was elected to the position 5 years ago, but she could be losing her grip on the city's top community post. One contender is newcomer to the council, Alderman Herman Bayersdorf. Despite being an alderman for only 12 months, he says he's a good chance of winning at least the role of deputy mayor.
I do believe that there I have a 50-50 chance, or a very even chance anyway, of attaining that post.
Another alderman who could be interested in contesting the election is Joe Harold, who declined to be interviewed. Alderman Richard Torbay could be a likely runner-up for the deputy's job.
The Mayor is still Chief Executive Officer of the Council, and also, of course, Chairperson of the Alderman, if you like, and hence plays a very vital role in the deliberations of Council.
There's a school of thought that believes that there's no first prize for being the first and youngest to finish school. In all but a few exceptional cases, children need time to mature and develop with others their own age. Children are legally required to start school by 6, but many join the classroom as young as 4 and 9 months, often encountering an age difference of up to 16 months among classmates.
The child comes in and they experience early failure because the 6-year-old and the older child is just going to be that much better. They display more leadership skills. Quite distressed children. I've actually had quite depressed children coming into me because they're not meeting their parents' expectations.
Dr Simon Clark, head of outpatient paediatrics at Sydney's Westmead Hospital, has seen children struggling to keep up, often branded as dunces by those more advanced. Prepubescent early starters can encounter other problems on reaching high school and later in tertiary education.
Everybody else is a year older, that much more mature, that much more able to cope with what's out there. And what's out there now is fairly daunting because it's unemployment, and you're not as prepared often.
The Kurri Kurri Public School is trialling a program to help parents realise the value of keeping their children at home just that little bit longer where circumstances allow.
So instead of teaching children the alphabet or teaching them to write their name in alphabetical capital letters, that they're habits that have to be unlearned. We're just saying to parents, look, you're doing a great job. The stuff you're doing you don't know is really good stuff. Just keep it up. Talk to your child, get them to ask questions, read books, get them to do as many things as they can. Help them to grow up versus keeping children grown down.
Armidale and its surrounding district is currently serviced by a public hospital, but the private facility would provide both an alternate source of healthcare and much-needed extra beds. Council has started talks with developers, but so far that's as far as the proposal has gone.
The theory is that perhaps the private hospital organisers would provide some facilities which are not at present available at the hospital, and that of course would increase the specialist facilities here.
Meanwhile, the board of the Armidale Hospital has announced plans to possibly provide auxiliary facilities which would be privately owned and operated. A review into the institution's future could see services such as pathology given over to private enterprise. But the board stresses it would only be a few of the services. The hospital would retain its public status. It's a modest airport by metropolitan standards, but it still represents an important tourism gateway to the Hunter Valley and Port Stephens. Last night, Newcastle Council agreed to take joint control of Newcastle Airport with Port Stephens Shire Council. Port Stephens has yet to make a decision, but it's unlikely to back away from the opportunity. The federal government will give $2.75 million to upgrade the airport. Councils will pay $5,000 a year rental, money Lord Mayor John McNaughton says will be easily recouped.
I don't see it as being a problem because with the throughput of the airport at the present time, we can easily make that much money.
The Lord Mayor already has plans to use the airport as a gateway for international visitors who've already toured Queensland and Central Australia.
We're looking at increased tourism, and we're looking at tourism where people will come from other parts of Australia to Newcastle, and even make Newcastle their base for visits into Sydney. And that is a very, very lucrative market.
It's expected the councils would be required to enter a 30-year lease with a rent-free clause if income failed to meet a set minimum figure. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
The Simple Kit is being sold for $14.90 in health food shops in the lead-contaminated area of Bullaroo. It's claimed it can detect the presence of heavy metals in a person's body and the environment. It was developed by Hans Rex, an alternative therapist. The Hunter Area Pathology Service has conducted a limited trial to see if the kit does what it claims to do. The results were delivered to Dr. John Stevenson today.
It doesn't seem to detect heavy metals at levels which we would normally expect to find in the body.
The scientific tests were conducted using purified water spiked with lead.
If that is indeed the case, then it has limited use, I think, in detecting heavy metal contamination within the body.
We asked Hans Rex about the fact that the packaging says the kit can detect lead in a person's body.
Yes. That, I don't know, that could very well be. I haven't read that. Is that true?
Hans Rex says the kit isn't meant to be a diagnostic tool. He's considering changing the wording on the package. However, he believes the kit is a useful tool to detect heavy metals in the environment. Dr. Stevenson recommends that people who want to be tested for lead and other heavy metals should have the procedure done by laboratory. Jane Anderson, NBN News.